is there such a thing as a bad singing voice, or can any voice be taught and trained to sing well? Is it an innate ability? Nature versus nurture, I think, is what they're asking there.
Yeah. I think there is such a thing as a bad singing voice, but it happens extremely rarely. If somebody is 100% truly tone deaf, it's going to be hard to carry a tune. You could go...
I don't want to mention any names, but I was concerned when raising my daughter because I feel like... How can I put this? I feel like there may be some genes in the pool that come from somebody who is abjectly tone deaf. And I, of course, am not that. So I don't know, is that fair to... I'm not sure.
No,
probably going to get edited
out.
But I mean, I felt like when I first realised my error was when I heard... sorry, forget about me for a minute. Let's talk about my friend Jason. Jason... Jason. He married someone, a delightful individual at first. I'm just kidding. And then, but that person could not sing, and was almost sort of in a state of denial as to that lack of ability. The child emerged, and Jason anxiously waited to hear whether or not the child had become like him, who he's a reasonable singer, or the other side, who cannot sing. Actually sounds like a foghorn. I'm not sure.
No.
So I'm wondering, and then Jason began to notice, like when the child was singing along to stuff early on, tended to naturally hit like a third harmony over, but weirdly adjusting to the pitch. So it's kind of like an innate harmony that was happening, and he wasn't sure whether to be relieved or concerned, really. But more recently, as the confidence of the child has grown, Jason's observed the child singing right on the money and properly hitting the... Yeah, imagine. Oh my God, I can't explain the relief, because that could have gone either way. And he didn't recognise just how perilous these waters were until well into the pregnancy. And I don't know, do you think that's something that's like tone deafness is something that can be inherited in that way, or is it something that's caused by like a hearing issue or something like that?
Yeah, I think that true tone deafness is extremely rare, and usually when people speak, you'll notice it there, where they don't have the normal fluctuations. Otherwise, people do have a sense of pitch. They just need to train it, and probably get out of their way to train it too, because it can be difficult to hone in. You got that emotional aspect again. Do you think about places that have tonal languages? So often children actually have perfect pitch because they grew up around that sound, and so they've developed that just automatically. I think just about anybody can improve pitch. How quickly they improve pitch is maybe more related to talent or early exposure to music. I think then pretty much everyone can learn to sing. It depends on how fast. And not everyone is going to have what you consider a beautiful natural tone quality. And I think then you have to either say, when you want to learn to sing or learn to sound beautiful, do you have a specific voice you're aiming to sound like that is really far from yours? You might not get there. Or are we going to talk about somebody like Geddy Lee, who has a very particular sound that fits into the slot perfectly for what he was going to do. Some people hate his voice. I personally love it. And I think that was just the right thing for Geddy's voice. And I think we can apply this to all kinds of people. And you'd mentioned a Chris Cornell at one point. Some people hate that sound, but there's this very deliberate placement of it and something that's going more grungy, that's, pulling in different aspects.
Which wasn't always there, actually. When you listen to early Soundgarden, his voice was completely different. I
haven't done that.
Yeah, you should try it. It's a real eye-opener.
That would be fascinating.
He operates in a totally different register. And you can tell it's him.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the sort of, that placement has become more and more deliberate as Soundgarden's and then, Audio Slave and everything else.
Yeah.
You can hear it sort of becoming the Chris Cornell sound. But in the opening exchanges, I'd recommend you listen to it because there's some great stuff in there. And
that'd be cool.
It's him singing in a totally different way, I think.
That'd be really cool. I would love to investigate that. So yeah, anybody can get better as long as you're not 100% tone deaf. Anybody can get better. How quickly you get better, I think, is a little more dependent upon early training.
Okay. Very diplomatic. Well done.
Oh, well, thank you.
Okay, so I've just got a couple more of these. Hang on.
Oh my.
Do you think that vocal manipulation, pitch and phrasing, editing today is a cause for concern for the art of music, for example, melodyne and auto-tune? And can you tell when something has been manipulated in a recording? And can you tell when someone is miming live?
Most of the time I can tell. If you have auto-tune on, there's an imprint that usually is left. If you have melodyne, I think that the imprint is extremely minimal. So melodyne is often used for a cappella groups, not auto-tune. Oh my gosh. Unless you're going for a particular more digital sound. But melodyne is often used for a cappella groups, and I think it sounds pretty dang natural as long as you're making fairly minimal edits. Does it endanger artistry? Some, I think.
Yeah, of course it does. I mean,
because
I've been in situations like, I remember I was working as a session guitar player on a track, and the singer, the session got way behind. There was some mucking around with a gospel choir for some reason. And then once they'd done their thing, the singer only had like 15 minutes to get a take done, and he really went for it. Gave it everything he had. It was a great take, but it was his only take. They didn't even make him do another one. They sent the singing part that he'd done to somebody to be tuned or manipulated or massaged, and then it came back, and it was like, I was thinking, in that instance, the reliance on a tuning, a tuning man is damaging to the artistry, because I think a lead singer should be given at least five runs at a thing to express himself or oneself, themselves. And he wasn't given that on that day because melodyne exists. I think everybody should have just stayed on a bit later and let him have another run at it at least 4 times.
I so much agree with you that I think you should allow a singer lots of shots until they feel, well, sometimes singers are their worst enemy, and as they go on in the 20th, 50th time, they think like, oh, it's getting better, and actually their first or second take was the best one. So then you need some ears to help you stop. But I think that there's a reasonable amount that a singer should just be allowed to have a go at with.
But the first take, imagine sitting there all day, everyone's arsing around and just, and then you just get to run in and do a quick one before everyone goes home.
Yeah. I think the big danger is something that Morgan James, who's an incredible singer, one way she put it is that perfectly tuned isn't perfect singing. Like I think that perfect singing is where you have tons of message. And I think that sometimes when a person is perfectly tuned, especially in post, we lose some of that emotional meaning. I like it when a person is a little bit sharp sometimes, because I feel there's an urgency in the sound.
I find it exciting when someone's sharp, always.
Yeah. Pavarotti sings sharp sometimes, and I love it.
Probably does it on purpose,
very well. So, but on the flip side, there are some artists that they come in and they sing with so much emotion. And if you've captured the emotion, but it's just a little bit off from the key, and like if you just nudge it a tiny bit with something like Melodyne, a lot of times an audience, I think, will respond a little bit more favorably to it if we're able to get more emotion in it. I'd rather have a person bring more emotion to a recording session than perfect singing, because we can shift a pitch and keep some of that emotional value if we just shift it a little bit. Don't overshift it though. That's where I think you really lose the humanness of the sound. And this comes from having been producer on albums and realizing like, oh gosh, I need to dial that back.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true, isn't it? It's like there's even a place for abject flatness, because it can be comedic as well. It can be anything. It's just like there's so much
painful.
Yeah, in the right way. Sometimes pain is good, isn't it? As I often tell. I was going to do something terrible. Anyway, sorry. I've got 3 more questions from the thing, but I've got a question for you. Okay.